articles of impeachment have been introduced against FBI Director Christopher the Weasel Wray. Good morning, Boston. Okay, my friends, still massive fallout from the findings of the Durham report. It is like an atomic bomb that has been detonated now on the political, legal landscape. So here is now the absolute latest. As we talked about throughout all of yesterday's show, the Durham report, comprehensive, thorough, detailed, extremely meticulous, shows beyond the shadow of a doubt that the claim used by the media, by the Democrats, to try to paralyze and sabotage President Trump during his 4 years in office, that he colluded with Russia, that he was an agent of Vladimir Putin, an agent of Russia, was a massive, monstrous lie. It was completely fabricated. And as the report details and shows, lays out, there was never any basis whatsoever, evidentiary, legal basis. There was no evidence of any kind to justify the FBI beginning its probe and investigation into the so-called Trump-Russia collusion. That the whole notion of Trump colluding with the Russians, or his campaign coordinating or colluding with the Russians, was literally made up. It was a fabrication manufactured by Hillary Clinton and her campaign and the DNC. Now, what is very important, and this is why now the fallout is growing and growing and growing, is that as the report details, from the very beginning, Obama and Biden were in on it. As the report documents, CIA Director, then Director John Brennan, knew and was told specifically that Hillary Clinton, and this is what the report says, was going to quote-unquote vilify Trump by trying to stir up a scandal that everyone knew was false, that Trump was working with Russian security services, and the reason why they came up with this was to distract and deflect, again, this is straight from the Durham report, from Hillary's scandal regarding the use of her private email server, which completely compromised and exposed vital national security, highly classified secrets. So they tried to frame Trump. Brennan meets with Obama and Vice President Biden, Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General, and the FBI Director at the time, James Comey. He tells them it's a pack of lies. It's all false. However, the FBI, the CIA, the deep state, we are all now going to give credence to Hillary Clinton's allegations. We're going to now feed these lies to our allies in the media, and they're going to parrot these lies, and they're deliberately going to poison, brainwash, and lie to the American people. The FBI and the CIA, the FBI in particular, was now clearly engaging in a coup. I cannot tell you how many violations of the law that is, how criminal this is, how corrupt this is, how illegal this is. In a nutshell, what Durham has now exposed, and what we now know beyond the shadow of a doubt, is that the FBI has now been turned into the personal police force for Joe Biden, for Barack Obama, and for the Democratic Party. What is also even worse is that they deliberately lied to a FISA court, in order, under the guise that Trump was colluding with the Russians, knowing it was all false, knowing it was a pack of lies, in order to spy on Trump, on his top advisors, and on his inner circle. So now we have the FBI and the CIA, like you would with the Stasi, or Putin's FSB, or in communist China, or the Gestapo, literally spying, surveilling a rival candidate and a rival presidential campaign. They were so determined to stop Trump at all costs that they then continued, and this is where the FBI ran wild and the CIA ran wild. They then continued to ferociously leak to the media and perpetuate and even expand their outlandish, wild claims about Trump-Russia collusion. And as Durham shows, everything they said was a lie. The Christopher Steele dossier was all full of lies. That, in fact, Donald Trump never went to the Ritz-Carlton in Moscow. He was never there. He never met prostitutes. He never peed all over them, with the Russians videotaping and allegedly having the evidence compromat over Donald Trump, that this was literally a fantasy invented by some $35,000 a year anti-Trump, pro-Hillary Russian national analyst at the Brookings Institution in Washington, Igor Danchenko. He made the whole thing up. It was all a lie. Furthermore, the notion of Alpha Bank, that Trump and his people were working through this bank and they were laundering money, and that's what Putin had over Trump. The whole thing was made up. All of it. And yet, they lied and lied and lied in order to trigger the Robert Mueller special counsel investigation, which went on for nearly 3 years. And the goal was to paralyze the Trump administration, to cast a shadow over Trump and his entire presidency, to frame him, to dirty him, to taint him as an agent of Russia. Trump equals Putin. Trump is an authoritarian. Trump is a spy, an agent for Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin. And many people believed it, especially Democrats, liberals, and the media who pushed it and pushed it and pushed it relentlessly. So what we now have is a massive criminal abuse of power. A criminal, as Congresswoman Elise Stefanik said yesterday, and I thought her very powerful statement, we have a massive criminal abuse of power by Obama. Obama, to me, is criminal numero uno, number one, by Joe Biden, and especially now, by Comey, by Brennan, by Clapper, by Andrew McCabe, the deputy of Comey, by Peter Strzok, the deputy assistant director for counterintelligence. There was this cabal at the top of the FBI. Heads need to roll. People need to go to jail. This is end of republic stuff. Our country, I'm telling you, cannot survive. And on top of that, this same corrupt FBI, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Comey is gone, Christopher Wray is in. And yet, as Marjorie Taylor Greene introduced articles of impeachment against Christopher Wray yesterday, as she put it, the same FBI continues to cover up Hunter Biden's laptop, continues to cover up the smoking gun document that shows that Joe Biden was paid bribes as vice president in order to change U.S. policy. The same FBI is targeting opponents of the regime. Okay, I normally, as you know, don't do this, but I'm going to read the statement, or at least parts of the statement, released yesterday by Congresswoman Elise Stefanik from New York. Again, it's her, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. That's it. I mean, I'm starting to run out of names. People who are willing now to say, not only are we going to introduce articles of impeachment against, say, Chris Wray, the FBI director, but are saying, no, there will be criminal charges. And I'm not going to back down until the people who orchestrated Crossfire Hurricane, that was the FBI's term for the illegal, that we now know, unlawful, abusive, Gestapo-like surveillance and investigation into Trump and the ridiculous allegations of Trump-Russia collusion. So here is what Elise Stefanik wrote. Quote, "The long-awaited Durham report confirmed what the American people already know, that individuals at the highest levels of government attempted to overthrow democracy when they illegally weaponized the federal government against Donald J. Trump." She continues. Now, notice, almost no other Republican has the guts to say what she's about to say. Quote, "This criminal abuse of power went all the way up to the Oval Office, where President Obama and then Vice President Joe Biden were in on it from the very beginning. Bingo." She then, I don't want to read the whole thing, but let me just wrap it up. She called the FBI's investigation into Trump illegal, unlawful, and an un-American abuse of power. And here's where she drops the hammer. The entire false smear was manufactured and paid for by political opponents of Donald Trump and perpetrated by the left's salivating mainstream media stenographers. Crossfire Hurricane was nothing more than an illegal, unlawful, and un-American abuse of power. I am more committed than ever to ensuring that those involved are held accountable and face criminal prosecution. Yes. Yes. Finally. Now, I understand it's a couple of Republicans. I get it. Much of the Republican establishment was complicit. They deliberately turned a blind eye. They knew what the deep state was doing to Trump. They knew what the FBI, the CIA, the DOJ, they knew that they were trying to frame Trump as an agent of Russia, a spy for Vladimir Putin, and just looked the other way because they want Trump out almost as bad as the left does. I get it. But at least now there are some warriors emerging, some truth tellers emerging. There are now cracks and leaks in the dam. And after a while, when you have the American people backing these rebel Republicans, it's going to grow and grow and grow. Now, 2 points, and then I want to go to the phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. Number one, by indicting Trump on those bogus, pardon the pun, trumped-up charges by Alvin Bragg and the out-of-control, frankly crazy Manhattan District Attorney, the stone has now been cracked. You want to go after former presidents? The stone has now been cracked. Remember, the Democrats established this precedent. They can't complain now. This is what you want. Well, now you're going to get what you want. So, she's right. Let's go after Obama. If Trump can be indicted, then Obama can be indicted. And if they can try to get Trump on some bookkeeping, and that's all this is, some on these ridiculous charges that would be laughed out of any other court, and try to turn some bookkeeping error into a federal crime. Don't tell me you can't get Obama for abuse of power, treason, violation of the law. I could go on and on and on and on. So they've got Obama, if they want him, 6 ways to Sunday. That's number one. Number two, as for the FBI, you know my position now on the FBI. I think it must be completely broken up and rebuilt. It is, you cannot save an institution that is this corrupt, this sleazy, this abusive, and this politicized. They are completely in the tank for the Democratic Party. They now, as I said, do the bidding of the regime. They are the personal police force for Obama, Biden, Hillary, and the Democrats. Now, this cannot stand. I'm telling you, really, I'm not exaggerating. I'm telling you for a fact. This is the stuff that will end our republic. America cannot survive a national law enforcement agency that is so corrupt that now it targets the enemies and opponents of the regime. And that is clearly now on one side against the other. They're going after traditionalist Catholics in churches, as Marjorie Taylor Greene pointed out in her articles of impeachment. They're deliberately now, memos have been exposed. They are now going after pro-life Catholics in the wake of the Dobbs decision. They are sending informants and infiltrators into the church. They now are targeting anyone who they believe is a critic of the regime. And all of this is under the watch and leadership of Christopher Wray. He is now covering up for the Biden crime family. He will not hand over the smoking gun document that will conclusively show that Biden took bribes as vice president in exchange for policy positions. He is helping to cover up the Hunter Biden laptop and all of Joe Biden's crimes on the laptop. Christopher Wray needs to be impeached.
Law enforcement agency that didn't follow the laws. We now see that it was politically motivated. I mean, that's something that happens in a third world country. That doesn't happen in America. I fought those things at the United Nations. I mean, to see what happened is unthinkable. Heads need to roll over this. Anybody that touched it or had a part in it needs to be fired, and every one of their senior managers needs to be fired. The FBI has lost complete credibility when it comes to this, and they've got a lot of fixing to do to get the trust back of the American people.
That was former UN ambassador, current Republican presidential candidate, Nikki Haley, saying the FBI heads need to roll. This is what their behavior, what they did to Trump, is the stuff that you see in third world dictatorships, third world banana republics. This must not be allowed to continue to happen in the United States. So let me ask you, is it time to bulldoze, speaking of the bulldozer, is it time to bulldoze the FBI? Break it up. If you want, raise it to the ground institutionally and then rebuild it. Is it now time for a new FBI? Destroy the old FBI and then create a new FBI. One that is objective, professional, nonpartisan, and above all, not corrupt. Yes or no? Is it time now to dismantle and rebuild the FBI? 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. Larry in Leominster. Thanks for holding, Larry, and welcome.
Jeff. So to get to the heart of this, the real blame behind this is the Republicans. And you have to jump in the Wayback Machine with Mr. Peabody, and we need to go back to 2012. Do you remember who was running for president in 2012?
You mean Mitt Romney, Mittens?
Mittens, yes. Now, he is Mittens, and that's another story.
Or Pierre Delecto. He's now Pierre Delecto.
Right. Exactly. Remember what Harry Reid successfully did?
Oh, when he went on the Senate floor and said he hasn't paid taxes in years.
Right.
He completely smeared him.
And then later on, he was interviewed, and someone said that was a bold-faced lie. And he had that stupid grin on his face that I've wanted to smack off for a decade. And he said, but it worked. And he was never held to task for it. The Republicans said, oh well, he got the better of us. That gave them permission to start doing anything and everything to destroy their opposition. Because they tried it with Trump.
Oh, you're dead on. Larry, I got to ask you this. You're dead on. Larry, look, you served this country. You're in the Air Force. You put your life on the line for the Constitution, for our Bill of Rights, for this republic, for our freedoms. I'm just curious, what's your reaction to the Durham report? Are you shocked at the level of depravity, the level of corruption, that this was a criminal abuse of power that went all the way to the top, all the way to Obama, number one, to Biden, to Brennan, to Comey, to Clapper, to all of them, Strzok, McCabe, the media, the executives, all of these CEOs who ran these media companies, they all knew this was a pack of lies. It's just incredible. And yet they deliberately lied and tried to poison and brainwash the American people.
Well, Jeff, thank you for bringing up the fact that I was in the military, because military people, above all, from the age of 18, I've known what it's like to have the government look you right in the face and lie to you. Starting with my recruiter all the way up. You're always constantly getting lied to. So that really doesn't surprise me. What actually kind of surprises me was yesterday's caller, Bill. And I'm sure Ben is the same dipwad attitude. They're still convinced that the government doesn't lie, and they're still convinced that their side is right. That's what's surprising me. They're so invested in having the wool pulled over their eyes that even you can show them a murder scene, show them with Biden stabbing somebody. That's not him. He didn't do it. I don't know what you're talking about. That's more surprising to me. The government's been lying to me since I was a kid. You know, anyone in the military will definitely tell you that you get BS all the way through your military career and beyond. Even as a veteran, you're constantly getting lied to. So that doesn't surprise me. It's these sycophants that just cannot let go of the lie is what gets me.
Larry, you know, if I'm getting too personal, please tell me. And I know I'm going to get heck from, you know, Sandy and others because I'm kind of going off the beaten path here. But, you know, you said, you know, you relied almost from day one, from your recruiter, throughout all your time in the military, even now as a veteran, your own government keeps lying to you. How do you not become a bitter cynic? I mean, you know, if I'm signing up to put my life on the line to serve my country, and the way my government treats me is to lie to me constantly, I mean, I'd be angry. I'd be bitter. I'd be cynical. I'd be resentful. I mean, I wouldn't be happy. I'd be disillusioned. You're none of those things. How do you do it? No, really, seriously.
Well, it's the same. Okay, this again, we're going off the rails a bit. This is the same with my religious beliefs. All right, I am Catholic, right? Devout Catholic, I would say. I believe in my faith. I have no belief in the church because the church has been corrupted by man. I believe in America. I'm long in America, but I have no faith in the government because it's been destroyed by man.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Well, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Perfect sense. Very smart, very logical, very rational. Larry, as always, you're one of our best callers. Thank you, and thank you again always for your service. 617-266 6868 is the number. Okay, should the FBI now be broken up and rebuilt? I say hell yes. What do you say? And Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, she's a rising star in the Republican Party, now says there needs to be prosecutions for criminal abuse of power and treason. And she's singling out Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Are you with Elise Stefanik? 617-266-6868, because I am. And I'm thinking, why don't we start putting her as chair of some of these powerful committees? I think, you know what? Let's get Elise Stefanik, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Lauren Boebert. Give them some of the most powerful committees in Congress. And maybe, just maybe, you're going to see some real change and some real improvement. I'm just throwing it out there. Should Obama go to jail? Should he be held accountable? Stefanik says yes. I say yes. What do you say? 617-266-6868. Victor in Georgetown. Thanks for holding, Victor, and welcome.
Kuhner, man.
Hi, Victor.
My heart is celebrating this morning. Not only am I talking with you, Rachel Rawlings isn't going to be around anymore.
Oh, I know. I said it right away to Sandy. That was the first thing out of my mouth this morning. Oh, I was going to talk about it later in the show. She was forced to resign, Victor, in shame. In shame. Because the idiot attended a political fundraiser for Biden in Andover last summer, violating the Hatch Act. How stupid can you be, Victor?
Showed her true colors, and I'm a decorated combat Marine. I had to laugh at Larry. He did make me laugh about them lying to you. They did kind of embellish things, but no one can understand how corrupt the FBI is. 34 years ago, they came into our town because a Wall Street bank had put out some what's called subprime loans, and they didn't put the Wall Street bankers in prison. They put some little local young lady who handed out flyers, from her company, because the FBI got their marching orders on what to accomplish, not to find out the truth, Jeff. We think about, government as trying to do the right thing. They're trying to do the right thing for themselves. And the only solution is to keep the bright lights on them so they can't get away with the stuff that they get away with. If we put a microphone on every non-top secret conversation that the FBI has, their activity would go down 99%, because they don't want you to know how conniving they are. They are not trustworthy. Even the ones in the field, they get weeded out. If they're good people, solid people, they get weeded out in the academy. What they want are people that are going to toe the FBI line. They are no good, rotten to the core. Never trust them, and you can't reform them. Thanks, Jeff.
No, thank you, Victor. He's a big yes if we're breaking them up and rebuilding them. No, I mean, look, a lot of them are yes men. We call a company man. They're just yes men. They're sycophants. They're hacks. And they just toe the line. And now they're towing it for Biden, for the Dems, and for the regime. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to play this cut by Trey Gowdy. And I want to get your take. Now, I know he's a bit of a blowhard. I get it. I know his bark is much bigger than his bite. But still, I think he makes a lot of sense. That's me on this particular issue. Tell me if you agree. Roll cut 9, Mike.
I'm not at all convinced that this fact pattern could not repeat itself. I mean, you talk about policies and procedures in place. What policy and procedure is going to govern the head of the FBI? And remember, Jim Comey said he did something to Donald Trump that he would not have even tried to do to Barack Obama. What policy and procedure is going to govern the deputy director who sat in his office and said he had a backup plan in case Donald Trump won? What policy and procedure is going to govern General Counsel James Baker, who was meeting with DNC lawyers and liberal media? And if you don't have a policy and procedure that keeps someone like Peter Strzok, who said he could smell Donald Trump supporters in a Walmart in Virginia, kudos for his work and the time he spent. But anyone who thinks that the FBI has reformed itself, it was not Comey and McCabe and Strzok that we were meeting with when I was in Congress. These were Trump people that we were meeting with, and they still covered it up.
In other words, it's irredeemably corrupt. I mean, that's what Gowdy's saying. He goes, it's institutionally corrupt. It's from top to bottom. I mean, there may be a few good agents here. I know, and I'll get to this a little bit later. There are a couple of brave FBI whistleblowers, and Marjorie Taylor Greene points them out in her, resolution for the articles of impeachment. And these whistleblowers are saying, you have no idea now how politicized, how abusive, how out of control, how corrupt the FBI has become. I mean, that's why these whistleblowers now are being intimidated and they're being muzzled. So let me ask you, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Kelly Financial Services. Do you believe the FBI when they say they've changed? Do you believe them? Because their answer to the Durham report was, it's all true. We deny none of it. It's everything what you say is true. But we have new policies, new procedures, new guidelines, blah, 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 blah. Now under Christopher Wray, this would never happen the way it happened in 2016 or 2017 or 2018 under then Comey and his other people, his successors. So let me ask you, do you believe the FBI has genuinely changed? Yes or no? You know where I stand? Hell no. If you believe that, I've got a bridge in Brooklyn you may be interested in. But that's me. I want to ask you, the great audience of Kuhner Country, go to WRKO.com/Kuhner, Kuhner, WRKO.com/Kuhner, Kuhner. Why do you always spell your last name, Jeff? Because to this freaking day, people still misspell my last name. I don't know why. Or on Twitter, if you want to vote there, you can. Our handle, @TheKuhner Report, @TheKuhner Report, all of it one word, Kuhner. The FBI. Now Marjorie Taylor Greene says it's time to impeach Christopher Wray. There are now growing calls for the FBI to be completely revamped, broken up, and eventually rebuilt. I say it's long past due. What say you? David in Brookline. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Powerful opening, except it's not really good for my blood pressure, yet I keep listening like any addict. Jeff, 3 quick points. Yeah, and you prompted all of them. I've called many times and referenced President Obama. I give him the respect by calling him President Obama. But I ask you, he's never even received, that I can recall, a tough question, even about health care. If you want your doctor, you can keep your doctor, let alone hold him responsible for being at the top of this whole crime scheme. Number 2, you remember, aside from calling for fundamental change in our country, which I never quite understood what he meant, other than it wasn't good, he called for a, quote, I paraphrase, a civilian police force. I never quite knew what that meant, but if I'm not mistaken, the FBI would be the best civilian police force he could put together. And then finally, Jeff, January 6th, this Durham report, though I haven't read it yet. However, I guarantee there's a lot of people that haven't read it that for 4 years, Jeff, knew something bad was going on.
Look, David, I have to tell you this, and I know this sounds very strange. It's going to seem extremely bizarre to many people listening, because you read the Durham report, and I finally got through it yesterday. I read good chunks of it the day before. I started with the executive summary, because then you know what to look for. And I read chunks of it for the show yesterday. And so I've gone through the report. Now, in many ways, it's a very depressing report. You cannot believe. First of all, you're very angry as you read it. I can't, this is not America. Like, really, you think this is Moldova? This is Russia? This is, Guatemala? This is Haiti? You just cannot believe that this is the United States of America. You just can't. It's what Nikki Haley said. At the UN, we condemn other countries for exactly the behavior that we now witnessed against Trump. However, by the time I'm done, I said to myself, he so laid out the case. It's so the one thing about Mueller, by the way, it's much longer report. Sorry, the one thing about Durham, forgive me, it's much longer than the Mueller report. It's much more thorough than the Mueller report. Much more meticulous, much more detailed, much more thorough, much more comprehensive. So what I'm saying is he really dotted his I's and crossed his T's. Like, to give the guy his due. People are angry. I get it. He's not recommending indictments. He didn't recommend any structural changes to the FBI. I get all that. He didn't break any new ground. I get all that. There's no new indictments. But what he laid out, I'll tell you what he laid out in one line. America has a secret police. That's what we have. That's what the FBI and in many ways the CIA have now turned into. We have now an American Stasi. That's what we have, an American KGB. So once you realize that, once the truth is crystallized so clearly in front of your eyes, well, we outnumber them. That's the secret weapon that we have. We so outnumber them. That's why the regime, remember, for the regime to rely on propaganda and brainwashing and disinformation, in other words, the media, that means they have to control us. They have to manipulate us. That's a sign of fear on their part. In other words, they're not running the country so smoothly and so effectively. They're all like, well, we love these guys. Oh, these guys, we trust them. We believe in them. It's the exact opposite. They have to work in the shadows. They have to deceive us. They have to infiltrate the brains of the Bills in Sudbury and the Bens in North Andover to pit them against us. That's the only way they can stay in power. So once we realize who and what the enemy is, it is then very easy to defeat them. It may take a few elections. It may take a couple years. But we so outnumber them, we cannot lose. That's why they're eventually going to fall. I'm convinced of it now. I'm positive. Now, let me just say one other thing, David, because this needs to be said. When you look at the actual report, what is crystal clear is that everybody who supported Russia collusion lied through their teeth, and they should be automatically discredited. For example, Nancy Pelosi came out and said, and we can play the video, it's there, that we have, quote, cold, hard evidence that Trump colluded with Russia. But she couldn't say because it's, from behind the scenes and what she saw in the Intelligence Committee and the briefing she got from Brennan and what the CIA has told me, what the FBI has told me. I can't say, I can't reveal it, but cold, hard evidence. She lied. She lied because there was never any evidence, as Durham shows, irrefutably. Adam Schiff, I can play the montage. In fact, you know what? Let's play the montage. What the hell? Let's have a little bit of fun. How this guy, and this is in media appearance after media appearance after media appearance, how this guy is still in Congress is beyond me. Roll cut 16. Mike.
There is ample evidence of collusion. Well, I think there is direct evidence in the emails from the Russians through their intermediary.
What do you got hard?
Well, Chris, unfortunately, I can't go into the evidence that's being presented.
Do you have something hard that you can't reveal?
I can't reveal that, Chris.
We haven't seen an actual proof of cooperation and collusion. So what am I missing here?
Well, I think you have to look at the pattern and the chronology. The Russians offered help. The campaign accepted help. The Russians gave help, and the president made full use of that help. And that is pretty damning. I could certainly say with confidence that there is significant evidence of collusion between the campaign and Russia.
Now, I could play hours of this. That's all this guy did. That's all the Democrats did for 4 years. I almost swore there. For 4 years. Sorry, this is getting my blood boiling. So look what they did. Now, again, just stand back objectively, okay? Many of you know this, but sometimes you kind of repeat something and it's like, oh boy, it just connects all the dots. They come up with this false story. We're going to frame him as an agent of Russia, as a spy for Vladimir Putin. Okay, something out of a Jean Le Carré or Tom Clancy novel. So we're going to paint him as a traitor in order to protect Hillary Clinton from her scandal. And the president then, Obama, is in on it. Biden, the vice president, in on it. The FBI director, the CIA director, the attorney general, they're all in on it. The FBI leadership, Peter Strzok, Andrew McCabe, the number 2, they're all in on it. They're all in on it. The director of national intelligence, Clapper, they're all in on it. The media now says, we love it. Anybody but Trump. So the media executives, remember, yes, we can go on about Jake Tapper and Rachel Maddow, but they only did it because their CEOs told them, go and do it. So it's all a pack of lies, and they know it. Trump pulls off a miracle. As Durham then shows, they say, we're going to continue. We're going to double. We're going to triple. We're going to quadruple down. We're going to really now go on and on. We're going to go with the Steele dossier. We're going to try to get Trump administration officials. We're going to try to trap them, perjury traps, anything to make it seem that Trump is an agent of Russia. So what did they do? They then launched the Mueller probe. And that goes on for 2 years. And remember, for 2 long years, it cast a complete shadow over Trump's presidency. Remember, leak after leak after leak, supposed. The walls are closing in. Oh, if you could only see what we're seeing here on the Mueller team. Oh, Andrew Weissman, that thug, who's now on MSNBC. Oh, we got him. Oh, we got him. Oh, it's even worse. Wolf. It's even worse than we thought. But then the Mueller report, because there's no evidence, can't come up with the goods. So now they go, what do? We still got another 2 years left. They're so angry. Now they've brainwashed and poisoned the minds of so many Americans. Trump is a Russian traitor. He's with Putin. So what do? Impeachment number 1. Let's get him. Impeachment number 1. Then that also helps to undermine, sabotage, never give him a chance to succeed. Always have him on defense. Always have him on the under attack, under siege. Then you've got Joe Biden. And what do? They get his laptop, the FBI, the deep state. And instead of investigating, it shows that he is in bed with China. He is colluding with foreign powers. Everything they alleged about Trump and they knew was a lie and false, they knew that it was true for Biden. And yet they bury the laptop. They try to prevent it from ever coming out. Then comes the New York Post. Independent media. And they get the goods and they expose the contents of the laptop. All of Joe Biden's corruption, influence peddling, pay, bribery from the Ukrainians, from the Chinese. Now we know from the Romanians as well. So what does the CIA and the FBI do? Fabricate the Dirty 51 letter, as it's called. 51 former intelligence officials. The CIA says, we need you to sign this. They're desperate. We got to give Biden now a talking point. We've got to suppress this laptop because if the American people know how corrupt and compromised Joe Biden is finished with the full cover and support of the corrupt media. Now, this is why Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying articles of impeachment against Joe Biden, articles of impeachment against Kamala Harris, articles of impeachment against Christopher Wray. Obama must be held accountable. He must be prosecuted. So must Biden. So must Brennan. So much Clapper. So must Comey. All of them. And I'm telling you, in a different age, in a different time, I'm just stating the facts. I don't want to get bombarded with emails. He's calling for people to be killed. In a different age, all of the people I mentioned would be tried for treason, found guilty, and they'd be hung. That's not a matter of opinion. That's a fact. That's a fact. Now, either we have a republic or we don't. Either we have the rule of law or we don't. Either we have a constitution or we don't. But what I'm telling you right now, I'm stating a fact. This country cannot go on much longer like this. It just can't. It will not survive. You cannot have a CIA that is now declaring war on half of its own people. You can't have an FBI that is now solely in the tank for one party and is being weaponized and used to destroy the opponents of the other party. You can't. You can't have a media that is relentlessly lying. Look, the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, I can run down the list. They should be hanging their heads in shame. They peddled the worst conspiracy theory in the history of the world, and it was all bull crap. 617-266-6868 is the number. I want to ask all of you this. Do you feel angry, betrayed, maybe vindicated because you've been proven right after all these years, but that you had to endure and suffer the constant barrage from liberals, family members, Democrats, the media, that Trump was an agent of Putin, that Trump had colluded with Russia, that by supporting Trump, you were supporting a traitor, and that you, by an extension, were a traitor yourself? In other words, did you fall for the lie, and now you realize you were completely played like chumps, played like a fiddle? And do you feel that this was an attempt at mass brainwashing, mass poisoning of the brain, mass indoctrination by our media, our FBI, and our CIA? Did we all just endure and essentially suffer from a deep state, CIA, FBI psychological warfare campaign. Because honestly, that's exactly how I feel after 7 years of this. And now the truth has come out, and God willing, it will set us free. 617-266-6868. Kirsten in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Kirsten, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure, Kirsten.
So I am a January 6th defendant, and I am facing sentencing in 2 weeks. And I just think that the American people need to know the truth. And a lot of this has been withheld from the public, and nobody knows what's happening behind the scenes in these courtrooms, or the fact that we're being tortured in jail. We're getting years of sentencing for walking into a building we were welcomed into. And it's just a scary time to be alive.
Kirsten, if I'm getting too personal, please tell me. I promise I won't be offended. What are they coming after you for? What was your quote-unquote crime that they say you committed?
So I have 4 misdemeanors. It's 2 disorderly conducts, 1 entering and remaining in a restricted building, and demonstrating, parading, and picketing. And it holds a max of 3.5 years in prison.
And so they're saying that you walked into the Capitol on January 6th?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Kirsten.
Through an open door.
Through an open door. I want to ask you this. Were you invited in? Because we see all the video footage of Capitol Hill police officers saying, yeah, come on in, come on in, come on in.
Went in, it's one of the most common doors, and there weren't actually any police at the door. But when you get further into the building, they're taking selfies with people, giving people high fives, standing to the side. Not once in the 20 minutes I was in there did I ever get told I wasn't allowed to be in there, that I had to leave. And then you see the videos of Jacob Chansley getting a guided tour. And it's just crazy that all these lies have been spewed for 2.5 years. And, for over 1.5 years, I've already been punished. I've been on federal probation. I'm drug tested, court-ordered counseling, and I'm red flagged at the airlines, and my travel is restricted. So to me, that's already a punishment. And I've been going through that for 1.5 years, and I haven't even been to sentencing yet.
Kirsten, when you were in court and you said, hey, look, they invited us in. Nobody told us to leave. They were taking selfies. They were high-fiving. Kirsten, if you don't mind me asking, did you touch anything? Did you break anything? Did you engage in any vandalism whatsoever?
Absolutely not. And actually, what's even funnier is that the D.C. prosecutors flew to New Hampshire and did a reverse proffer with me and my attorneys, and showed me the evidence they had. You didn't break anything. You didn't hurt anybody. We don't want to see you ruin your life. We'll offer you a plea deal. And I am one of the few January 6ers that did not take a plea deal. And I couldn't do it. I stand for truth, and that would mean that, taking a plea deal is admitting to guilt that I don't believe that I'm guilty of, and cooperating with the government. And that's just not who I am. And so, yeah, that's where we're at this point.
So they're even telling you, we know you didn't touch anything, break anything, commit any vandalism whatsoever. So basically, let's be honest, the worst you may have committed was trespassing. Am I wrong?
Right, and that's even questionable. So
now, okay,
I believe it's entrapment.
Oh, I agree. Oh, I completely agree. You were completely entrapped. Oh, there's no question. But I'm just saying, worst case scenario, okay? That's the worst. When you say this in court, look, I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't break a thing. They were inviting us in. They were giving us high fives. We were taking selfies with them. Nobody even told me to leave. What do they say to you?
Oh, Jeff, honestly, I wish these court proceedings were televised like everything else, because these prosecutors, it's even worse than the movies. These people are savages. They attack you in every way possible, whether it's your personal text messages. They paint you out to be a monster. You would have thought that I committed murder during my trial. And the sad thing is my, court-appointed attorneys, they even messed up on my jury selection. That's how corrupt all of this is. My trial began with my own defense attorneys messing up and striking the wrong jurors. And when we addressed the judge...
Kirsten, can you please hang on? We're going to go right back to Kirsten. I got a hard break. Don't touch that dial. Okay, let's go right back to Kirsten in New Hampshire. Absolutely, honestly, riveting, fascinating phone call. She is a January 6th defendant. She is giving us an inside window into how she is being mistreated, frankly, persecuted and harassed. She entered the Capitol building. She was welcomed in. The prosecutors themselves admit she committed no vandalism. She didn't break anything. She didn't touch anything. She didn't hurt anyone. As she's describing, people were taking selfies with police officers. They were giving the protesters high fives, and no one even told her to leave. Well, now she's facing years in jail. She refused to take a plea bargain. She now describes what it's like in the courtroom. As she said, these prosecutors are, quote, like savages. You would think she committed murder. Her own defense team bungled the jury selection. Please, Kirsten, pick up where you left off.
Yeah, so, and then, my jury selection, these people were not a jury of our peers at all. These people got on the stand and they work for the DOJ. They're law professors. Their best friend's a Capitol police officer. And these people sat on my jury. I had no chance in hell, honestly. I really didn't. And then my attorney took me into a room and unprofessionally screamed and swore at me to the point where my family could hear them outside, telling me that I would be absolutely insane if I got on that stand and testified for myself. And as it is, I had one witness, even though I had asked for multiple witnesses, and they did not prep my witness. They let him get tore apart. They did not object to things they should have objected to.
Why wouldn't your own lawyer want you to testify if you want to testify?
Because, honestly, these are the same attorneys that didn't do any preparation for my case. Like, how crazy is it that I sat in a trial for 4 days and my own defense attorneys did not show not one picture, not one video, nothing in my defense at all. I'm on my third attorney, to be honest with you. And now, unfortunately, it's at the point where I've been wrongfully convicted, and now I'm at the point where basically my only chance and hope, even though it was inadequate defense, is an appeal, which, in most cases, while you're waiting for your appeal, you don't go to jail. But not in January 6th cases. And, the public needs to know that we are being tortured in prison, something you would see in Gitmo. We have January 6th defendants that are begging to go to Gitmo, actually, because we've had bleach in their food. One guy's blind in one eye. They're getting beaten. Some of them have been in solitary confinement for a year. It is complete torture what is happening. They are not letting you speak to your family, visitation. And it's scary.
Kirsten, sorry, can you just back up a little bit? Because you break up a little bit once in a while. You're saying, so some of the J6ers have been beaten? Is that what you're saying?
Been beaten. Some of the jails, because of Marjorie Taylor Greene, going there and visiting. We actually just had one of the wardens fired because, yes, they found that they were putting bleach in their food. One guy is now a stage 4 cancer because they denied him his cancer treatment. They are being beaten. They are being put in solitary confinement. They're being denied food, medical treatment, and this is America.
Oh my God. Kirsten, what are you looking at in terms of potential jail time? They're going to put you essentially in a gulag. How many years are you looking at?
So my charges hold a max of 3.5.
What does your lawyer think you're going to get?
He doesn't have any answer for me. And actually, I've been trying to, have them reach out to the prosecutor, considering my sentencing is May 31st. We tried filing a motion to continue, and that has not been ruled on by the judge, but the prosecutors opposed it with an 8-page motion on why it shouldn't be. My other co-defendant, he just got 20 months in prison, and they put him way out in Arkansas, over 500 miles away from his family. And he has 3 children, never been arrested in his life, and a pregnant wife. And they don't care. They don't care if you're a veteran. They don't care if you're a parent. They don't care if you lose your house, your job, nothing.
You guys would have been better off. No, I'm not kidding. You guys would have been better off holding up and burglarizing or raiding a Walgreens or a Bergdorf Goodman or one of these high-end department stores. I mean, seriously, had you guys had you guys gone in and just cleaned the place out, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 worth of merchandise, held them up at gunpoint even, you wouldn't be treated like this. Am I wrong?
No, you wouldn't. All the Democrats that went to January 6th, all their charges were dropped, like Stephen Colbert and all of his staff. So it's a 2-tier justice system, and it's really, really sad because these judges are so corrupt, and they need to be held accountable.
Why are the prosecutors, the judges, why are they so obsessed, so desperate to get you, to get all the January 6ers, to really throw the book at you and make all of you suffer? Because you're right. Your rights are being violated. These are human rights abuses, and you're being effectively tortured. There's no question. You are being persecuted and tortured. Why are they so determined to destroy all of you? What's their motivation?
Their goal is, because it's already happened to some January 6ers, depending on your charges, they have taken away our gun rights. So to be honest, I think that the underlining motive is to disarm us.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Kirsten, I got to ask you one final question. Again, if I'm being too personal, please tell me. I promise I won't be offended. Have they destroyed your life?
Yes. If you Google my name, it'll come up. I mean, I lost my job when all this came out on the news. They took 2 random people's statements, when they had all the tipsters calling in, and somebody had told them that I broke a window in the Capitol, that I was a member of the Proud Boys, and all these things, which is public knowledge. So I lost, a lot of my customers, so the public thinks that, I broke a window in the Capitol and I'm this horrible domestic terrorist, and it's ruined my life. I mean, every time I fly, which is, I have to get written permission, who I'm going with, their date of birth, their name, address, phone number, and I have to get written permission to even leave the state. And the only way, I've only gone to see my sister in Florida because she just had my first nephew. But if you could see the treatment that I get for misdemeanor charges, red flagged at an airline, is absolutely disgusting. I mean, I have met some of my closest friends just from flying because people, strangers that I do not know, are watching what they are doing to me. The fact that they are excessively searching me and shutting down an entire lane and alarms go off and it's this big, huge to-do. And then after that, they have undercovers following me around the airport. One of them actually followed me to the women's bathroom and poked his head in, which I didn't know until later on getting on the airplane and meeting these people and then being like, what did you do to get treated like this? I mean, it's disgusting.
Kirsten, I've got less than a minute left. Can you do the time?
Yep.
You can do 2-3 years in jail?
No. No. I mean, as it is, I already had to take a second mortgage out when I lost my job when all this happened. I mean, my life has been ruined. And it's just beginning.
Look, Kirsten, this is outrageous. One of the big reasons why I'm backing Trump is he's going to pardon. People like you are going to get a pardon. And so that's why we need to get Trump reelected. He's got to come back to power because this must end. And if he can't win the nomination, if they put him behind bars, I'm going to insist that whoever is the Republican nominee must publicly pledge to pardon people like you. Jeff Kuhner, the voice of the resistance. That story that Kirsten told us about her personal suffering, her persecution, her harassment, her torture at the hands of the feds, hands of the DOJ and the FBI, sickening, outrageous, unacceptable. It's harrowing, absolutely harrowing. So when they tell me the FBI has reformed itself, BS. I mean, you want to talk about horse crap? Absolute bull. You know what? Now, let me just ask all of you this: should the January 6ers be pardoned? When I hear what Kirsten is going through, the nightmare her life has become, and even her own prosecutors admit she didn't break anything, she didn't touch anything, she didn't hurt anyone. You're telling me this woman deserves to have her life completely and utterly destroyed? Like, is this the United States of America? Or really, what is the difference between the way they're being treated and how they would be treated in communist China or Putin's Russia? Seriously. Bleach in food? Beatings by guards? Prisoners being denied medical treatment? Many of them being sent to solitary confinement for weeks and months on end? Others sentenced to places like Arkansas, where they're 500-600 miles away from their family or their wife who's pregnant and they already have 3 children. And remember, these are the same ones lecturing us about democracy. Democracy. Now, I just, too quick, I want to read one text, one email, and then go right back to the blazing phone lines. On the FBI, this is, I think, very fascinating. Should we break up, dismantle, and then rebuild the FBI? Very interesting point. Jeff, the FBI simply needs to go. To be completely honest with you, the FBI doesn't need to be dismantled and rebuilt. It simply needs to be dismantled and discarded. There is absolutely no need to have this uncontrollable 3-letter federal agency anymore. The states and counties can undoubtedly handle their own criminal investigations, and the states can easily cooperate with one another if crimes cross state lines. The states would be more accountable to the public and honestly would do a much better job of it. I argue that we did just fine in this country without the FBI before 1908. And as a country, we'd be much better off without them going forward. So let me put this on the table. Do you agree with this emailer? You know what, Jeff? Don't even rebuild it. Break it up, smash it to pieces, and throw it away. Just get rid of the FBI and have law enforcement go back completely to the states and localities. And if you have something that's across state lines where you need the states can cooperate with each other, we don't even need a federal bureau of investigation. I'm just curious, what do you say? Agree, disagree? 617-266-6868, and then a text. This is from 781. You can text us 70470, 70470. This is 781. Jeff, in 2018, Karine Jean-Pierre, that's right, Biden's current press secretary, was asked on MSNBC regarding Russia collusion. Do you think Trump is guilty? Karine Jean-Pierre, yes. There is something that's going to come out about Russia. Remember, there's money laundering, quote unquote. Jeff, Trump should sue all of them. I completely agree. And the one that really needs to pay is Hillary Clinton. You want to talk about a vindictive witch. You want to talk about an evil, nasty, conniving, vicious woman. A thug, a political gangster. She's the one that concocted this whole thing. She's the one that designed and manufactured the lie. She's the one who said, let's feed it to the FBI and the CIA. Let's keep this thing going even after Trump beat her. And what, we're just going to let her skate? After all of the damage she's inflicted upon our institutions, upon our country, frankly, upon our democracy? Hillary Clinton needs to be arrested. Trump should sue the hell out of her. All the money they grifted and stole in the Clinton Foundation, Trump should sue them for every single penny. Every single penny. And take them to the cleaners. But she needs to go behind bars. And I hope the president is listening. Mr. President, I want you to campaign again on lock her up. And this time you say, I mean it. I will lock her up. That is a seminal campaign pledge. If I do nothing else, I'm going to lock that witch up. And I'm telling you, the whole country is going to erupt and go, yes, yes, baby, what took you so long? 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Keith in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Keith, and welcome.
The guy stole my thunder. I've loved you in the morning, I've loved you in the afternoon, and sometimes I've loved you at night in a non-sexual way. We can't reform. It needs to be totally gotten rid of. All these three-letter agencies. The FBI was founded during Teddy Roosevelt's administration under great objection by Congress because they knew it would turn into a national police force. You can't revise it. You can't fix it. It's got to go. And I agree with the guy who just text messaged to you. Good idea.
Keith, let me just play devil's advocate because I know exactly what they're going to say, and I'm just curious what your answer is. Because as you know, for many years, until it really got built up into this internal police force, this massive powerhouse, basically the FBI in the 20s and the 30s, they were chasing bank robbers, organized criminals, gangsters. So what do you say to the argument, well, we need the FBI to go after organized crime, the mafia, let's say, I don't know, criminals that operate in other countries or that operate, across state lines, that just local law enforcement or state police don't have the ability, resources, or reach to go after some of these transnational organized crime criminal syndicates. What do you say to that, Keith?
They were corrupt in the 20s and 30s. The FBI left the mob alone. The mob had them compromised. They had pictures of Hoover and his lover. They were compromised then. They weren't doing the job. They were corrupt then. And Truman said the greatest mistake he made was signing the National Security Act after World War II, which took the OSS and created the CIA. He said they're going to turn into something that is uncontrollable, black ops, unlimited budget, national security. We can do anything. Don't ask us any questions. If we got to go overseas, let the Army handle it, and internally the U.S. Marshals. It's a pariah. It's something this republic cannot bear having exist within the government.
I agree. I'm telling you, I agree. I know I'm going to get a lot of blowback, but I agree. If we really want to return to our constitutional republic, I think the FBI and the CIA are a cancer. I think there's no question. You're right. They're pariahs. They're monsters. They have grown too big, unlimited budget. They work in the shadows. And in the name of national security, look at them. Look at them. They think they can do whatever they want. And just look now how they're covering up for Joe Biden. The FBI has the smoking gun document that shows when he was vice president, he took bribes, treason, and changed his official position of the United States to benefit the foreign power. It looked like it was Romania that was paying him the money. And they don't want to hand it over. Who the hell do they think they are? There's a congressional subpoena, and they think that they're bigger and more powerful than Congress, our elected representatives. So I'm with you. I don't think you can reform these people. I think you give them that kind of power, they're going to keep abusing it and abusing it and abusing it. Keith, as always, thank you very much for that call. Just my opinion. 617-266-6868 is the number. I know we need intelligence, of course, military intelligence. Well, let the Department of Defense do it. That's how we used to do it before the CIA. And I just want to say this. Notice, before the CIA, before all of these three-letter agencies, we were a much freer country internally, civil liberties, civil rights. But you notice something else? We used to win our wars. We would always win our wars. Our wars would be declared. Congress would declare a war, authorize a war. We'd have a declaration of war. And then we would go and win our war. And then we'd come back home and it's over. Now, it's a perpetual warfare state. It's interventions relentlessly, endless wars, endless interventions. And he's right, always under the guise of national security. So don't ask any questions. We're the shadow government. Don't ask. Don't ask. The Constitution doesn't apply to us. And now they think they're our overlords. That's what the Durham report has shown. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Tom in the great state of Ohio. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
I'll tell you, Jeff, that the segment you had with Kristen, that is just so disturbing. It's terrible.
It's a real window into what our justice system under Biden and what the FBI and the feds and the DOJ, what they've really become. It turns your stomach, doesn't it, Tom?
Yeah, it does, Jeff. And, there is no justice in the justice system. They've lost their purpose. They've lost their purpose, Jeff. What they were intended to do when they were originally established and what they are now is completely different. You have, Jeff, I think a lot in these agencies, you have what I call the participation children that are, running the levers of government. And when you have a capitalist society, Like Ricky Bobby's dad said, if you ain't first, you're last. These people don't like it. They want it vanilla. Hell, Jeff, we have the SEIU, which is a governmental union. If the government is so socially just and equitable, why do you need a union? It's just disgusting.
Tom, I got to ask you, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik says this was a criminal abuse of power. What Obama, Biden, the CIA, Brennan, Comey, the FBI, that Crossfire Hurricane was a clear abuse of power, that they had no right, no basis to investigate Trump, never mind try to frame Trump. She says there needs to be criminal prosecutions. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, James Comey, that they need to be put behind bars. Is Congresswoman Stefanik right?
Yeah, of course she is, Jeff, but it's never going to happen. It's just, unfortunately, Jeff, this will endure. When your son Ashton has a program like yours years from now, well, they will still be talking about it. And that's the unfortunate thing, is that Trump was not part of the fraternity. So the Republicans and Democrats, they banded together and said, no way, we're not going to let this guy in. He's going to come in here and tell us what to do. He's going to cut government by 10%. We can't do that. We're all valuable. You can't tell us what to do. That's what's really disgusting. That is, look, if the Twitter files, Matt Taibbi, if that stuff that Elon dropped to him, if the video from January 6th, all that evidence is out there and nothing is going to happen from it, Jeff. I hate to say that. I'm discouraged. I'm really, it's just frustrating as hell.
Tom, I'm going to have Jim Jordan from Ohio on Friday. It's going to be his third interview with us. It could be his last. We'll see. We'd like to have him on once a month to update us what's happening on Capitol Hill. I can't make any promises. Is there anything you think I should ask him or you want me to ask him?
Why won't you introduce articles of impeachment? And if not, when are you going to do it? And why won't you do it?
I mean, articles of impeachment against Biden, right?
Right, and Mayorkas and Kamala, the whole cabal. I wouldn't worry about the Durham report. I would just look at what they're doing right now. Because you're never going to get the dear leader. You're never going to get Hillary. And if Trump goes after Hillary, she'll become a martyr. The media will make both her and the dear leader martyrs because they are discrediting the Durham report now. So go after him for what he's doing right now. Him, Kamala, and Mayorkas, now. And if not now, when?
Tom, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. David in Burlington. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, David.
Hi, Jeff. I've been listening, and Christian's her story was riveting, absolutely riveting. And you asked the question, Jeff, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this to her and the other January 6th people? And the first thing that came to my mind, Jeff, was, number one, they can do it. And number two, they're setting an example for the rest of us. If you guys get out of line, this is going to happen to you. If you guys go against us, this could be you next.
Oh, I think you're dead on, David. I think you're absolutely correct. And when you listen to her, how do I say, it's not someone you read about on paper, or on a website. It's not a story. It's flesh and blood. It's a real person on the phone. And, when the way she describes it, the door was open and we were invited in. So I went in. And the police officers are taking selfies with us. They're high-fiving us. No one said to me, leave. So think about, if you're just in her shoes. And I didn't touch anything. I didn't break anything. I never hurt I didn't do anything. I was there for about 20 minutes. And at worst, I agree, she was entrapped. There's no question. But at worst, okay, it's trespassing. Okay, it's a misdemeanor. Okay, fine. Slap on the wrist. I get it. But to destroy her life like this, with this kind of vindictiveness, fanaticism, zeal, and then to hear the stories about she's going to be going to jail for years and years, and you got other January 6ers, they're poisoning their food. Some of them are going blind. They're getting beaten to a pulp. They're living in filthy, horrible conditions. They're put in solitary confinement. In the United States of America, where you have, I know this for a fact, you have January 6ers saying, please take me to Gitmo. Put me with the Islamic terrorists, the Al-Qaeda terrorists, because they're treated much better than we're treated here. Holy mackerel. And these are the same people that are lecturing us about democracy. Yeah, David, we're the threat to democracy coming from these people. They have to be pardoned. They have to be pardoned. And if Trump is put behind bars, whoever then becomes the Republican nominee, to me, it's a litmus test. You want my support? I don't care. If it's DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, Haley, whatever, I don't care. You must pledge on day one to pardon the January 6ers, because that poor Kirsten woman shouldn't be spending a day in jail. Never mind how many years. It is beyond outrageous.
Not just a day, but all their money and their livelihood gone.
Yeah, losing her job, being branded a domestic terrorist, being harassed, persecuted, her own family, her own friends, having them spy on you. You can't even go to the freaking bathroom at the airport. They're following you. And notice, again, the FBI. Who are the informants in the crowd on January 6th? The FBI. Who was urging people to go into the Capitol? The FBI. FBI informants. Who are the ones secretly surveilling? Like I told you, like the Stasi or the Gestapo. Secretly surveilling and following these January 6ers as they go to airports or whatever into the bathroom. It's the feds, the FBI. So they're not going after real criminals. No. They're going after opponents of the Biden regime. And that's why Marjorie Taylor Greene, to her credit, has introduced articles of impeachment against Christopher Wray, the FBI director. And she's right. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, listen now to former Deputy Assistant Attorney General John Yoo saying the Durham report highlights the Clinton campaign and its incestuous relationship with the deep state and with the Obama regime. Roll cut 15, Mike.
The other thing I think he brings to light, which really is also outside his purview, is how intertwined the Hillary Clinton campaign was with the Obama administration and the intelligence and law enforcement agencies. That's another thing that founders would have been extremely worried by, shocked by even, is political parties intermixing with our civil servants. I hate to say it, I was a doubter at first, but Donald Trump was right that this all was a hoax.
Yeah. I mean, the founding fathers would oppose a secret police force. You think? You think. So, yeah, you better believe it. They would be opposed to it. 617-266-6868. Victor in Maryland. Thanks for holding, Victor, and welcome.
Wow, Jeff. I don't know where to begin my talk with you today. Good morning, America. I hope the people in Washington are listening to you on Lady A. I do it every morning. You're the morning guy. You got to go national. Okay. I told every talk show I could think of during the 2016 campaign that Hillary reminded me of my former wife. And what man in his right mind would vote for somebody who would remind them of their former wife? She in my case, gave me an ultimatum. It was either her, the marriage, or Rush Limbaugh. I had to pick one. I chose Rush Limbaugh. I'm glad I did because I got my freedom of speech back because she was like the police, secret police. I'm not kidding.
Really, your wife hated Rush and conservative talk radio so much that she said it's either me or Rush. And you said,
and I chose Rush. Yeah, I told Rush about it. He got a big kick out of that. And then I called him later on, about a year later, and said, I got a conservative girlfriend. And he says, oh, who could forget you? Okay. My main point is not only eliminate the FBI, let's get rid of the Environmental Agency.
Yeah, because EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency.
Yeah, let's keep our light bulbs, our AC, our gas water heaters, gas stoves. We don't need the watermelons telling us what we can and cannot have in our house, especially those who want to hang on to their gas-powered cars. Get rid of the Education Agency. We don't need them. They're poisoning the kids, with all this transgender.
So get rid of the Department of Education. You're on a roll. Keep going, Victor.
Let's get rid of the Energy Department. We don't need that. Drill, baby, drill. Where do you think electricity comes from, you watermelons who want their electric cars? What's going to happen when you can't charge your battery? That's going to be a lot of fun to watch these people freak out when their cars don't work because there's not enough electricity because we stopped fossil fuels.
And Victor, let me ask you this. What about the CIA? Do you think it's time to get rid of them?
Too. Get rid of them, too. And if we can't get rid of these agencies, let's put, for example, the EPA out in the middle of Wyoming. Get these agencies out of Washington, D.C.
In other words, decentralize, deconsolidate, decentralize, and disperse them around the country so it's harder for them to collude with one another. I like it. Victor, you're making a lot of sense. A lot of sense. Victor, as always, thank you so much for your call. 617-266-6868. John in Dunstable. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
The corruption is so deep, Jeff, that nothing's going to happen. And so much water went under the bridge, it's never coming back. But I was so upset, Jeff, that after hearing Christian on the phone, I'd like to, I don't know how to do it, Jeff. I just own a flip phone. I don't have a computer or anything, because I believe they're government entraptions. But I'd like to see if you could do something to have a collection for her. And if we get enough money, maybe help some other of the
the problem. You have a beautiful sentiment, John. Please don't get me wrong. She's going to be sentenced now, so she's been found guilty. She's staring at 3.5 years in jail. What I'm going to do is when I have Jim Jordan on this Friday, I've already changed in my mind the interview. Very early on, I'm going to tell him about Kirsten, what she's going through. We have her contact info, and I'm going to really try to urge him to hold hearings and have her testify in front of Congress. So to have her story go national and let everybody know how the January 6ers are being tortured, persecuted, and abused. And believe me, that I think will put growing pressure so that all of them be pardoned. So I'm going to do that with Jim Jordan no matter what. I mean, I want to ask him about the Durham report and other things, but Kirsten now is going to go to the front of the list. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me throw another very important log on the fire. All of you, you need to hear this. So, in relation to our poll question of the day, do you believe the FBI, the DOJ, when they say they've changed? Since 2016, 2017, 2018, all of the bombshell revelations completely exposed in the Durham report about how the FBI sought to frame Trump as an agent of Russia and deliberately lied to the American people based on what Hillary Clinton did to smear Trump as someone who was colluding with the Russians. Well, listen now to this. There is a whistleblower that has now come out. They're keeping his name anonymous, but through his lawyers, the New York Post, again, was the one that broke this story, that came out and said that when Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, testified in front of Congress under oath, saying that the U.S. Attorney in Delaware, David Weiss, has full unilateral authority, meaning on his own, he can file charges against Hunter Biden for tax fraud, tax evasion. The whistleblower who works on the IRS investigative team, in fact, he supervises and oversees the IRS investigators looking into Hunter Biden, said that was a bald-faced lie. He lied to Congress. Garland says any decision to charge Hunter Biden must go through me and, of course, the big guy. They are doing everything in their power to prevent the investigation from going forward or to have any charges filed against Hunter Biden. They're protecting Hunter at all costs. Well, listen now to this. Now this very same whistleblower, through his lawyers, have sent a letter to Congress. In fact, to Jim Jordan. And that's one of the questions I want to ask Jordan, Congressman Jordan, on Friday. They now have removed the entire investigative IRS team. Let me repeat that. The Internal Revenue Service, in retaliation for the disclosures and revelations of this whistleblower, have now completely removed the IRS investigative team, including, of course, himself. They are no longer investigating Hunter Biden. And this was done under the direct order of the Department of Justice and the FBI. They're protecting Hunter. And now they've called off the investigators. And they know Hunter Biden is guilty. First of all, he's taken millions of dollars from foreign entities, foreign oligarchs, much of it undeclared. He's a tax cheat. Never mind the other laws that he's broken regarding foreign lobbying, tax evasion, tax fraud, wire fraud. This guy can go to jail just on this alone for years. For years. And now they've deliberately pulled back they've removed the investigative team under the direct orders of the DOJ and the FBI, essentially under orders of Garland and Wray. Furthermore, as his lawyers point out in the letter, this is also done clearly to obstruct a congressional investigation, because Jordan's committee and Comer's committee are looking into the IRS investigation of Hunter Biden. Now, investigating a congressional committee, obstructing the investigation of a congressional committee, obstructing a congressional investigation is a federal crime. It's crime upon crime upon crime. Again, what are the Republicans going to do about this? But more than that, the FBI is as dirty can be. So they can stand there and say, oh, we have new procedures and guidelines, and oh, it's a new team, it's a new leadership, it's a different FBI. No, it isn't. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Now it's circle the wagons and protect that drug addict crackhead at all costs. Protect that degenerate, that crook and criminal Hunter at all costs. And believe me, come on, as the French would say, entre nous, among us. Merrick Garland doesn't give a damn about Hunter Biden. What the hell is Hunter Biden to Merrick Garland? What the hell is Hunter Biden to Christopher Wray? They don't know him from a hole in the wall. They're doing it to appease and please their boss. They're doing it under the orders of Joey, the big guy. Their corruption knows no end and no bounds. None. And it's now time for Jim Jordan and Comer to play real hardball. Get that whistleblower in front of a committee, blow the lid off of this thing, get Garland. Garland lied under oath. He needs to be prosecuted for perjury. And it's time to end this protection racket over Hunter Biden. Because the key to Joe Biden and the entire Biden crime family goes right through that crackhead son. You expose Hunter, you expose the whole thing. And that's why now they are circling the wagons and protecting him, desperately protecting him at all costs. 617-266-6868. Here's a major criminal, and the FBI is not investigating him, they're protecting him. And they're going to tell me the FBI has changed? You think they'd be protecting Trump's kid? You think they'd be protecting Trump's family? They'd be salivating to bring him down. Again, the FBI is the secret police of the Biden regime and the Democratic Party. 617-266-6868. Richie in Pembroke. Thanks for holding, Richie, and welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good. How are you, Richie?
Oh, I'm good. I just wish that when the shooting starts, I'm going to be up front so I can take my share. You think I'm kidding, huh?
No, it's just funny the way you phrase it. It's just funny the way you want to. So you're saying you want to be on the front lines.
Right. These lowlifes, you're not going to, I don't care what they say they're going to do or whatever. They're lowlifes. And a lowlife never changes his spots. There's only two ways to really take care of a lowlife. First, you drag him out of his house. Then
the problem is we were dealing with Republicans here. I mean, I know you're using political. You mean it politically. Politically, I mean, I gotta push these guys to issue a subpoena. I mean, I'm serious. It's like pulling teeth. I mean, look, here's what I have working with me. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Elise Stefanik, Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz. That's it. That's it. I'm not saying Comer isn't doing good work or Jordan. They're doing very good work. They're piling up a lot of evidence and stuff. But I'm talking about, you want to say, front line. You say, hey, I'll take the proverbial bullet, Jeff. I'm willing to. These are the only ones, the grunts, that are willing to go into foxholes and politically fight. So, you've got like 4 or 5 warriors that are willing to say, okay, let's play some smash mouth football. That's it. That's it. And in the Senate, what? Hawley? Rand Paul a little bit? Am I missing somebody? After that, I'm like, I mean, I know you have Carrie Lake and others around the country, but I'm talking about in Congress. I'm like, I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. That's our problem. They fight. We don't. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, quick reset, and then I want to go right back to the phone lines. Stunning revelations in the Durham report. I know we've known this for years, but now it's all been corroborated, confirmed through meticulous detail. Hillary Clinton, Obama, Biden, the FBI, the CIA, with the media, they desperately tried to frame Trump as an agent of Russia, knowing it was all a massive lie. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can text us 70470. This is from 917. Jeff, Biden's Department of Injustice and the Federal Bureau of Intimidation are the enemies of the people. I hear you, 917. This is from 617. Jeff, the reason why Hunter Biden is not going to be indicted is because he is the president's son and thereby above the law until King Joe and the deep state gets dethroned. Well, that's what it's really now starting to look like. We're living now in a country with a two-tier justice system. One for Democrats and the regime, and another one for the rest of us. 617-266-6868. Steve in Springfield. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Hi, how you doing? I'll tell you, I'm livid, but I can contain my thoughts. I'm going to try to give your bulldozer their fuel injection. I have two major serious points. Number one, this is not a country of secret courts. What's going on with these January 6th laws? Congress needs to go to the Supreme Court and get a writ of habeas corpus and make these trials public and have them testify in front of Congress. And I'll tell you, the other source of power that we have, because we do have the power, nothing gets spent without Jim Jordan's position. And he needs to make a list of demands with these stonewalling, like the NSA, the CIA, the FBI. He needs to get them to quit stonewalling, make a list of demands, or they don't get another dime. They don't get the debt ceiling rate. You know, Republicans need to stand up for once in their life.
Oh, Steve, I'm with you. I'm completely with you. Steve, I got to ask
and
you.
I hope you...
Oh, go ahead. I meant to cut you off. Please, go ahead.
I'm just saying, I hope you ask Jim Jordan those questions. You know, you want public hearings of the January 6th. These aren't terrorists. These are American citizens. We're not supposed to have secret courts. That's why we have a writ of habeas corpus.
Steve, I've got to ask you, in many ways, you're obviously an intelligent, well-read man. Why are Republicans so reluctant, so afraid to fight? I know I've asked this question dozens of times, but for the life of me, I don't understand it. You've got this bombshell new report, whatever you think of its limitations. I mean, man, look, even CNN, Jake Tapper admits it's devastating to the FBI. His word, not mine. And that Trump has been exonerated. His words, not mine. So you've got this bombshell report, all of the unbelievable revelations, everything now confirmed and corroborated. You're seeing the FBI now behave again in such a corrupt, uncontrolled, abusive manner. And they still won't take the gloves off. Why?
The power. See, now they don't even have to give us a pretense. There's no agency with any teeth to do anything about it. The only teeth that we have is the power of the purse, which Jim, not one dime gets spent without his permission. He needs to use that like a cudgel. He really does. He needs to make a list of demands. No more stonewalling investigations. No more any of this crap. It's Jim Jordan's way or the highway, and I hope you can ask him those questions. I've tried calling his office several times, and if you can ask him those questions, I would be really happy. No, not one dime for these corrupt, politicized intelligence agencies. This is fulfilling Truman, who was afraid that the CIA was going to become an American Gestapo.
Oh, we're pretty much here. Yeah, I mean, Truman was right.
We are here. We are here, but we got to do something about it.
You're dead on. No, Steve, you're absolutely. I will ask him. Time permitting, I promise I will ask him. I've got about 3 or 4 questions, so we've got him for about maybe 10 minutes. So I'll do the best that I can on Friday, 8:30. All of you, please tune in. Steve, great call. Great call. Can I just say this very quick because I want to go right back to the lines. President Truman warned us about the CIA, saying it's going to create like as he put it, an American Gestapo, a monster, as he put it, that's going to have an unlimited budget, almost unlimited power, beyond the reach of the Constitution, beyond the reach of Congress, and they'll eventually start manipulating not just foreign governments, but here in the United States. And then he was followed by Dwight Eisenhower. And what was Eisenhower's final warning in his final speech? Beware of the military-industrial complex. So here you have a Democrat and a Republican, and 2 of the best presidents of the 20th century. I'm not saying you have to agree with everything, but let's be honest, they both were substantial, consequential, effective presidents. And both of them warned us, watch out for the deep state. Watch out for the FBI. Watch out for the CIA. Watch out for the arms, the military, the arms industry. Watch out for the warfare state. It will consume us, and it will destroy our freedoms and our liberties. And we ignored him. We ignored him. Truman warned us. We ignored him. Eisenhower warned us. We ignored him. And here we are. Here we are. 617-266-6868. Pamela in Rhode Island. Thanks for holding, Pamela, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks a lot. I became a listener probably about a year and a half ago when one of my clients suggested that I start listening to you, and you're awesome.
Oh, thank you, Pamela.
So, am I to get this correct that the CIA was involved in killing Kennedy? Has that been proven?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's been proven. RFK Jr. has said he believes it, that his uncle, John F. Kennedy, they lied to him about the Bay of Pigs. And so he felt that they were, again, manipulating the president. And so Kennedy was so angry that he vowed he would, quote, smash the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter them to the wind, so that he was going to really crack down. And so RFK Jr. says that he believes, and he admits that his family, meaning his father, was eventually assassinated, but everyone else believed that the CIA offed John F. Kennedy. Now, they're still withholding some key Kennedy documents, assassination documents. Donald Trump now has vowed that he will release all documents if he's reelected. Tucker Carlson reported that he spoke to someone who personally read all of the Kennedy files. And according to what Tucker said, that he couldn't give the person's name, but this person told Tucker, and Tucker repeated on the air, that the CIA had a major hand in the assassination of John F. Kennedy. So that's where we are.
So if this is true, or even, on the fringes of being true, why? So you have the CIA that basically scattered the brains of a sitting president on a street in Texas for the whole world to see. Why would we have any inkling of hope that the CIA could not be corrupt? I mean, they've toppled governments all over the world, and now they're working with the cartels to topple the United States. Why would we believe them? Why aren't they getting disbanded? Why aren't the Republicans doing anything about this?
Oh, you're dead on. You're absolutely dead on. Look, Pamela, I worked in D.C. for 10 years. I oversaw the White House congressional coverage at the Washington Times. And I can tell you this as certainly as the sun rises. Take this to the bank. They blackmail people. Both the CIA and the FBI, that is their modus operandi. So the first thing they do whenever there's an incoming congressman or a congresswoman or a senator, it's very much like how the Russian secret police or the Chinese secret police operate. Kompromat, as the Russians call it. Find out something dirty and then use that as leverage. And so many members of Congress are compromised. They don't want, that's why they're afraid to go up against the FBI. That's why they're afraid to go up against the CIA. So that's how the CIA, that's how they stay in the shadows, and that's how they stay in power. And then, honestly, let me tell you the most nefarious of all is now it's really obvious. It was more hidden, like I was there from during the Bush years and Obama's first term. It was still more hidden. Now it's brazen. If you look at CNN or MSNBC or Fox, it doesn't matter. Look how many former CIA, FBI, intelligence officials are on the payroll. $1 million contract, $2 million contract, Mike Morrell for CBS. It's all of them. So the relationship between the media and the intelligence community, it's incestuous. The Washington Post, I'm telling you, is a mouthpiece for the CIA. The New York Times is a mouthpiece for the FBI. So they have completely co-opted the media. Now, why is this important? Because the media now acts as the propaganda arm of the CIA. And so what the media does is they're there to spread misinformation and disinformation. So many people still blindly believe the CIA. They're constantly manipulated, and their minds are brainwashed or indoctrinated or poisoned by the CIA. And that's what you saw, and that's what Durham exposes, that the CIA knew that Trump was not colluding with the Russians, but they fed it to the media. And the media knew it was a lie, but they just kept repeating it and repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. And now half the country believes it. You can't, even with the report, you can't shake them from that belief. So the power of the CIA is the power of propaganda. That's their key. That's what they have. And that's why it's so hard to dislodge them. Am I making any sense to you?
Absolutely. That makes 100% sense to me. And that's why I think even the Republicans are having such a hard time getting rid of Biden or trying to impeach him, because he's been sitting his butt up there for 50 years. He knows where all the bodies are buried. He's got the goods on everybody. If he goes down, a lot of people are going with him, and they're afraid. I think that is what it comes down to. They're afraid heads are going to roll. There's too many people up there that are getting paid, and they want their job security. I think that they just don't want to open that can of worms, and it needs to be done. When is somebody going to step up and get some balls and do this?
I think that's the magic of Trump. Honestly, I think that's why the country just keeps galvanizing to him, because you mentioned balls. He's the only one with balls to do it, or at least to say he's going to do it. And the most dangerous thing he said, I will drain the swamp. The moment he said those three words, they declared war on him, because he's a mortal threat to their power, their wealth, and their control. Pamela, thank you very much for that call. Okay, joining me now, as she always does at this time, my better half, my wife, Dr. Grace, putting liberals in their place, former nationally syndicated talk show host, political analyst, political commentator, Grace Vuoto. Grace, how are you?
I am outraged, Jeff. Absolutely outraged.
I want to get out of your way. Because I know when you're at the house, when you're mad, the kids run for the hills, I run for the hills, that Italian temper comes out. So I want to ask you, I know why you're outraged. The Durham report. What say you?
Jeff, we've had terrible attacks in American history. We've had awful moments. This is one of the worst. This is worse than the attack at Pearl Harbor on us. So what really happened is, Donald Trump has been saying it's a witch hunt. It's a witch hunt. The truth of the matter is there is a witch in this whole thing, and that's Hillary Clinton. They hunted the wrong person. They should have been hunting Hillary Clinton the whole time. This is an evil woman who perpetrated one of the greatest crimes in American history on a political opponent and then on all the supporters of that opponent.
I got to say, Grace, I really, Trump is vindicated, but in many ways you've been vindicated. And I really want to give you big kudos. You did take a lot of blowback initially, but you came out and said one of the biggest mistakes Trump made, he should have locked her up. When he made that promise, he should have followed through on that promise. And by not following through on that promise, that gave the deep state, the swamp, the breathing room they needed to go after and subvert his presidency.
That is correct. The minute he didn't go on offense, then he was on defense the whole time. And I want to say something extremely important. So the FBI, they had tips that, in fact, Clinton was being given favors by foreign governments that were planning to contribute to her campaign. So they had tips that there was foreign interference on her behalf, and they didn't pursue that. And instead, they pursued every single tip they could manufacture or they could latch onto to vilify Donald Trump. They even knew that the Russians had even told them, believe it or not, they got a tip from the Russians saying, be careful, Hillary Clinton is going to spread a lot of misinformation about our role. It's not true. The Russians had the intelligence that Hillary Clinton was going to do this to him, and they gave that intelligence to the FBI. Can you believe that? The Russians were telling our government, watch out for Hillary Clinton. She's going to set a trap for Donald Trump. And the FBI had that. So the FBI, the Russian intelligence knew what Hillary was doing, and they told our intelligence services.
Grace, what do you make of the FBI, the CIA, Brennan? He then meets with Obama, then the president, then Vice President Biden, then FBI Director Comey, then Attorney General Loretta Lynch, and he tells them in the Situation Room, these are all lies. Hillary is going to frame him as an agent of Russia. It's a dirty tricks campaign to distract from her private email server scandal, and it's all false. There is no basis to any of this. And they green-light it anyway.
They green-lighted it because this is what Hillary did. Hillary is the one, Hillary and Bill, they created the playbook. How do you take money from foreign governments and enrich yourself? So they created the scheme. Then Biden learned from her and said, oh, that's how I make millions, if not billions of dollars. Let me do the same. And Obama evidently did the same. So they've learned from her how to do it. That's one of the reasons I opposed her so ferociously in 2016. I think she's the most corrosive force in American politics in recent memory. So I was dead set against her coming to power. But what really happened is she paved the way. She showed them how you could do it. So by the time they realized that it was a dirty trick from her, well, of course they're not going to blow the whistle on her, because you catch Hillary, you catch Biden, you catch Obama. So then by that point, they were all involved.
Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, New York Republican, rising star in the GOP, came out with a statement yesterday saying that this was a criminal abuse of power by Obama, by Biden, by Comey, and that they need to be prosecuted and they need to go to jail. That this was a crime, treason, committed against our democracy and the American people. Is she right?
She is 100% right. And when we talk about it, we have to talk about it as the Clinton-Obama-Biden scandal. They are all involved. She and Bill created the playbook. The other two went along with it. They enriched themselves. Now Donald Trump was going to come to power. Who knows what he was going to find? They had to stop him. Once they couldn't stop him, then they had to vilify him. Their techniques have only become more sophisticated. It's not that they've stopped. They've only gone deeper into the shadows in how they do this. They're way ahead of us. They're way ahead of us. The plans are underway. They're just more sophisticated. Look how many years it takes us to come up with, now we have the corroboration of the truth. Now it all comes out. And it's the same pattern. We learn years after the fact. But after the fact, it's too late to bring the perpetrators to justice. This is a game that they're playing. It's even becoming a transparent game, but they continue to get away with it.
We've got 1 minute left. Can our country survive if the CIA and the FBI, the deep state, continue now to run our government and run our country? Or are we now staring at the end of our republic?
Well, Jeff, this is a mortal threat to us. They're feeding misinformation to the media. They're poisoning the minds of the public. And they're protecting a cabal of treasonous criminals. And ultimately, there are three people who have enriched themselves by mishandling the public trust, or violating the public trust, and then the rest is a scheme to protect them, to protect the truth from coming out. So you have a cabal of treasonous criminals who they are protecting.
Now you know why I married her. Huh? Now you know why. Dr. Grace putting liberals in their place. Grace Voto, as always, hits another home run. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go to Susan in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Susan, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call. Thank you. I wanted to talk to you about CIA and the news. And the first thing is something called Operation Mockingbird. I don't know if anybody's called in about that or not. And I'm just going to go right to the Wikipedia page for Operation Mockingbird, which I don't really trust Wikipedia, but it's a pretty good explanation. It says Operation Mockingbird is an alleged large-scale program of the United States Central Intelligence Agency that began in the early years of the Cold War and attempted to manipulate domestic American news media organizations for propaganda purposes. According to Deborah Davis, Operation Mockingbird recruited leading American journalists into a propaganda network and influenced the operations of front groups. CIA support of front groups was exposed when in April 1967, Rampart's article reported that the National Student Association received funding from the CIA. So it goes on, and it talks about how they recruited journalists to basically be their mouthpiece, okay, and spread propaganda. And by the way, CIA, if you know any conspiracy theorists who are laughed at, CIA is seeing eye of America. But anyways, the next thing that I like to just bring up is that this is an article from 2012, but it talks about who owns the media, and nobody's been talking about this. The media is owned by, at least in 2012, 6 companies. Back in 1990s, it was a big thing that they were asking, as big companies were buying these smaller companies, they kept saying on these news articles, is this dangerous? Is this something that we need to be aware or alerted to? Of course. 90% of all media, that's magazines, newspapers, TV. By the way, if you ever saw the movie Out of the Shadows, the CIA is also in Hollywood. They approve of many of the movies that come out. They want these movies to have a certain twist where, for example, it sounds silly, but James Bond, it's cool to be CIA but it gives you an illusion of one thing when it's really something else. Same with a lot of war movies and all kinds of things. But the 6 companies back then that they talk about that own everything are GE, which I think is owned by China now, but I'm not entirely sure about that. News Corp, Disney owns ABC, ESPN, Pixar, Miramax, Marvel Studios. Viacom owns MTV, Nick Jr., BET, CMT, Paramount Pictures, Time Warner, CNN, HBO, Time, Warner Brothers, and CBS, Showtime, Smithsonian Channel, NFL, Jeopardy, 60 Minutes. I'm sorry, GE, I skipped, owns Comcast, NBC, Universal Pictures, Focus Features, and News Corp owns Fox, Wall Street Journal, and New York Post. That's a lot of power and on a global basis, you know?
Oh, it's massive power. There's no question. Look, you touch on two supremely important issues, Susan. Number one, the power of the corporate media. And what we're witnessing now is that the corporate media has been in bed with the CIA, the FBI, in many ways, the establishment, the Democrat-Republican establishment, and they're their mouthpiece. They do their propaganda bidding. So it's not a put down of the media. When I say they're propaganda, they literally are propaganda. And the goal of propaganda is to lie to you. It is to brainwash you. It is to manipulate you. It is to poison your mind. Now look, just stand back. Okay? Just let's take Trump off the table just for a second. Look how much hatred that they have been able to sow in people for Vladimir Putin. You mention Putin, really, they start foaming. They hate him. It's almost like a reflex, like a Pavlovian dog, you know, like a Pavlovian reflex, like with the dog. You get now a conditioned response. Look what they've managed to do regarding the war in Ukraine. They have created such a boogeyman, such a Russian Dr. Niet, like you mentioned, James Bond, a caricature that the country is willing to flirt with World War III, with even a nuclear war over a country that is thousands of miles away. But that's how much they've inflamed hatred in the minds of so many people regarding Vladimir Putin. Look how they've manipulated the entire coverage of the war in Ukraine, to the point that you have Caitlin Collins going to President Trump and saying, do you want Russia to win? Are you seriously? He's like, I want to end the war. I want to end the massacre, the killing, the murder, the destruction, the mayhem. But now it's become a litmus test. You must defeat Russia, no matter what the cost or the price. Now, what you don't hear from the media is that Zelensky, here, Seymour Hersh, did another big piece. Zelensky now embezzled, that we know, $400 million in U.S. aid. 400 mil. Cy Hersh. Now, he got him on Nord Stream 2. He's now got Zelensky as a crook. How come nobody's mentioning this? Cy Hersh has now proven that Zelensky is arresting journalists in Ukraine, shutting down media outlets. He has shut down all opposition parties. My God, they're arresting priests and monks. They're closing down Eastern Orthodox churches and monasteries. Churchill didn't do this. He's the Churchill of our time. Churchill never embezzled any money. Churchill didn't crack down on the opposition. He invited them into his government. Churchill never muzzled and censored and closed down media outlets or jailed priests or closed down churches. So here you have a thug and a crook leading Ukraine, and yet they're turning this guy into, I'm not kidding, into George Washington on the Dnieper River. So this is the power of propaganda. This is the power of the media. And it completely shapes and dominates the narrative. And you're right. It all goes to the fact that corporate media is so concentrated in its power, and it's now become so corrupt. And I'm telling you, Susan, that's why they want me off the air. That's why they had to get rid of Tucker Carlson, because he was one of the few true dissident voices. They don't want alternatives to you, the people. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, really, really good email. It's a tad long, so I'm going to have to shorten it a little bit. But, Jeff, since your last caller brought up Operation Mockingbird, this is where the CIA inserted their agents and operatives into newsrooms and media outlets all around the country. The CIA's fingers could now literally steer and influence the American media. This is directly tied to individuals in the media you named, among others, including, I did not know this, known CIA operative Anderson Cooper. So the silver-haired guy on CNN. You know, he is a shill for the CIA. Oh, man. For the national security state, what a mouthpiece. But anyway, the caller continues. This is why a lot of us call the mainstream media the, quote, mockingbird media. Moreover, let me hit you with a startling quote, and the audience can look this up for themselves. Former CIA Director William Casey, by Bill Casey. Former CIA Director Bill Casey, who led the agency from 1981 to 1987, was quoted as saying, quote, "We will know that our job is complete when everything the American public believes is a lie," unquote. How's that for your tax dollars working for you? That's why, again, burn the CIA to the ground. FBI, dismantle it, get rid of it. CIA, dismantle it, get rid of it. But Jeff, we need military intelligence. Of course. But have it the way it was before the CIA was created after World War II. Have the military be in charge of intelligence. Because the military is directly under civilian command and control. And it's constitutional on top of everything else. Now, very quickly, just the almost exclamation point to what Susan was trying to say about the immense power and the concentration of power of the media. And brainwashing and propagandizing the American people. I could play you the cuts. I can't stand the sound of his voice. Sandy always gives me 40, 50 cuts every morning. She says, do you want anything more? I could have added this to the list. Honestly, hearing his voice is like nails on a chalkboard. But if you don't believe me, please, you can look it up because his comments are everywhere. The dear leader, former President Barack Hussein Obama, was interviewed yesterday on CBS Mornings. So it's an interview with CBS. Okay, you can read it for yourself. And according to him, he's asked, well, what's the thing about the Durham report, that you most that struck you or that you want to talk about? And what really keeps you up at night? What's your biggest concern? Quote, the divided media. In fact, I'll even give you the question. Nate Burleson asked, post-presidency, what about this country keeps you up at night? Quote, listen to this. The thing that I'm most worried about is the degree to which we've now had a divided conversation, in part because we have a divided media. And he continues, when I was coming up, meaning when he was younger, you had 3 TV stations, and people were getting a similar sense of what is true and what isn't, what was real and what was not. Today, what I'm most concerned about is the fact that because of the splintering of the media, we almost occupy different realities. And then he goes on to say about why do we disagree even on a common set of facts? And he goes on about, for example, how can we disagree on gun control? There's gun violence in America. That's indisputable. It's worse than almost any other country in the world. That's indisputable. So how can we say it's a mental health problem? It's not. We need to have common facts. And how do you have common facts? You get rid of opposing points of view in the media. He's openly saying, I want an American Pravda. I want an American Izvestia. What they have in communist China, what they have in communist Cuba, what they had in the old Soviet Union, or what they had under Nazi Germany. I want one media and everybody pushing the same narrative. I don't want opposing points of view, i.e., I don't want conservative media. I don't want Jeff Kuhner. I don't want conservative talk radio. I don't want Tucker Carlson. I don't want One America News. I don't want whatever. Take your pick. I don't want the Boston Broadside. I don't want anyone who is going to dare to challenge when we say we need gun control. Shut up and let us take your guns. When we tell you Trump is an agent of Russia, shut up and swallow our lies, hook, line, and sinker. When we tell you we need World War III in Ukraine, shut up and go lockstep. Wave the Ukrainian flag. That's what he's saying. And when they wax nostalgic about the big three, the old networks. Walter Cronkite was a shill for the Democratic Party. Walter Cronkite lied about the war in Vietnam. Walter Cronkite, you want to talk about being a mouthpiece for the CIA. Walter Cronkite was a hack for the Democratic Party. So when they go on about, the days of Dan Rather, that liberal, Tom Brokaw, that liberal, Peter Jennings, that liberal. In other words, those were the days before Rush Limbaugh, before conservative talk, before independent news sites on the internet, before the Kuhner Report, before Tucker Carlson. When they controlled the entire media and there were no dissenting or opposing or alternative points of view. And again, this is all mind control. It's all, oh my God, we can't even agree on basic facts. Oh my God. Oh, you mean like January 6th was an armed sedition? It was an armed insurrection? You mean that pack of lies? Oh, you mean that what? That the future of democracy and world security is at stake over who controls the Donbass in Ukraine? You mean that? Or let's go back to the Durham report, that Trump colluded with Russia and you can't question it. Nothing. Can't challenge it. Nothing. They want us to be utterly submissive. They want to turn us into mindless drones and zombies. Shut up, pay your taxes, and obey. That's not democracy. That's dictatorship. In a democracy, you have constant opposing points of view. You have constant alternative media, especially in the good old days when you had local independent newspapers, local independent media or radio stations. The more local, the more independent. The more independent, the more you had real diversity, intellectual, political diversity. The more concentration of corporate power, the less diversity. 617-266-6868 is the number. Do you agree with Obama? Do we have too many opposing points of view? Is the media too divided? Should we now have a common set of facts? I say this is totalitarianism, but that's me. Ron in Holliston. Thanks for holding, Ron, and welcome.
Jeff, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. Hold on a second. The thing about the FBI saying that they did reforms, that's just another oxymoron, like secure borders and things like that. they're thumbing their nose at us. And when people say, like, why aren't the Republicans doing anything? We are the Republicans. And it's come to a point where we have to be the jerks that they say that we are. We have to poison the well. We have to rub the puppy's nose in the carpet. We should have Let's Go Brandon Sky banners going around Hampton Beach. We got to be visible.
Ron, I don't want to rush this. More with him next. 617-266-6868. Okay, we lost Ron in Holliston, but basically his point was we are now the Republican Party, i.e. we're the opposition, and we should be loud. We should speak our mind. We should, wear whatever, Let's Go Brandon shirts or put out, Let's Go Brandon banners. Which is to me is fine. Don't get me wrong. In other words, be more noisy, be more loud. We just got to speak the truth to friends, to family members, on social media, wherever it may be. We have the truth on our side. And that is the most powerful, dangerous weapon in the world. So speak it. And the more we speak, the stronger we will get. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Brooke in Florida. Thanks for holding, Brooke, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. It's Brooks in Florida.
Brooks, my apologies. I had Brooke on the board. Please, Brooks, go ahead.
Jeff, longtime listener, first-time caller.
Welcome, Brooks. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. And might I say that my wife and I love you and Grace in a non-sexual way.
I hear her cheering in the background. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Boy, when she left the program this morning, it really gave me the impetus to call because, like so many of us, I hear the frustration in her voice. And, what comes to mind, Jeff, for me is that I often wonder through programs like this if there's any ability to inspire just one federal judge, just one active, it's got to be an active military member to step forward and say, follow me. We're not going to put up with this. We are not abiding by the Constitution, and we have got to stop this. What do you think about some sort of movement? All of these conversations and all of these discussions through programs like yours are inspiring us, but we're throwing mud at the wall. We have got to inspire. Where are Trump's federal judges? We have got to inspire military members to come forward and say, listen, we can stop this, follow us, but they're afraid of getting fired. So you have organizations like Judicial Watch. Tom Fitton he'll support them. He will actively support them. These truckers in Canada, Jeff, they were so close, man. They were one molecule close to taking down this tyranny, this Trudeau. If we could have any federal judge that's listening to this program or a General Flynn start to form a discussion about an action. We need our words into an action. What say you?
I agree. I think you're dead on. Look, Brooks, just to let people know, you've got whistleblowers now. They're coming forward. IRS, FBI, CIA, they're coming from everywhere now. So the regime is getting more and more exposed. Our numbers are going up and up and up. Now, there's a certain point, and you see this in countries all over the world. Communism eventually fell. And the reason why it fell, it was critical mass. There were just too many people who opposed the regime. They got a problem. They've got a big, big problem. And that's why they're trying to silence people like me or Tucker. And look, he's now got more, just to give Tucker Carlson as an example, he gets much more views on Twitter than he ever did when he was on Fox. So attempting to silence or muzzle or censor him has blown up in their face. So what I'm just saying is, here's what the regime is trying to tell us. Are you going to believe us or your lying eyes? And we can see the inflation. We can see the border invasion. We can see the economy. We can see the crime. We can see Afghanistan and what a debacle that was. We can see that the war in Ukraine is not going the way they said it was. We can see all of it. So eventually, they just were too many of us. They can't stop us. So the only thing that can stop us is us. So look, we got less than 18 months now. So all we got to do, hang tough, stay strong, and organize. Organize, organize, organize. We do that, the whole rotten structure is going to come crashing down. And I believe Trump, 4 years, he's only got one term. If he wins, he is going to clean house. People are going to go to jail. He is on the warpath. So, look, this is it. I mean, this really is it. One side is going to win, the other side is going to lose. They're strong on top, but they're thin on the ground. We are very strong on the ground. We're thin on top. I like us. They have the power for now, but I like our odds. Because in the end, numbers are numbers are numbers. Just my opinion. Brooks, please don't be a stranger. Call again. Mark in New Hampshire. Mark, I hate to do this to you. I've got 1 full minute left. The floor is all yours. Go.
Okay, propaganda, Jeff. No. So we all knew this was a big fat hoax. So my question is, how the hell did Robert Mueller come up with he could not exonerate Trump regarding collusion? If there was none to begin with, there was no evidence of it, everything was a big fat lie, what the hell did we pay Robert Mueller $40 million to come up with?
Mark, don't get me wrong. I only have eyes for my wife. I love you in a non-sexual way, my friend. You just put a bow on the entire show. The whole Mueller investigation was a massive sham. If there was no collusion, what the hell was he investigating? Mark, drop the mic. I gotta go. Bye-bye.